I'm Catherine Hadro. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, eye on the Bidens. Reaction and analysis as the president's son is indicted on federal gun charges. Pro-life outreach. How Human Coalition is teaming up with lawmakers for the unborn. A plea for justice. An international group pushes for the release of a Catholic bishop jailed in Nicaragua. And Fixer Upper, an NFL star and a Catholic university team up to refurbish church properties. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of Our Lady of Sorrows. I'm Catherine Hadro, in for Tracy Sabol. Our top story tonight, President Joe Biden delivers a speech today after thousands of auto workers walk off the job. They want big raises and better benefits. Automakers counter, saying there is unprecedented demand to build new electric vehicles. The president saying record corporate profits should mean record contracts. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen?
Well, good evening to you, Catherine. President Biden also said auto workers deserve a contract that sustains themselves as well as the middle class. And the United Auto Workers Union went on strike against General Motors, Ford, and Stellantis. And if this strike drags on, could cost you more to buy a car.
At a Stellantis plant in Ohio, striking workers waving their flag. And today, President Joe Biden with this reaction.
No one wants a strike. Say it again. No one wants a strike. But I respect workers' right to use their options under the collective bargaining system.
Biden, who says he's the most pro-union president ever, urged both sides to come to an agreement.
It's my hope that the parties can return to the negotiation table to forge a win-win agreement.
The White House also pressed on Hunter Biden's criminal indictment. President Biden's son is accused of lying about his drug use when he bought a gun in 2018.
There's nothing new here. As I've been asked that question many times, I'm not going to get into private conversations that the president has with his family. I'm just not going to speak to it.
Hunter is also under investigation for tax crimes. His attorney accuses Republicans of pressuring the prosecutor.
They may escalate it. If they do, people should ask what changed. Not the facts, not the law, but the politics.
Meanwhile, at the State Department Thursday.
Finally, Nagorno-Karabakh, one U.S. lawmaker recently wrote a letter to President Biden saying, quote, "The United States must recognize this genocide and act accordingly to save as many lives as possible," end quote. What is the State Department's message to suffering Armenian Christians?
That we want the Lachin corridor to be opened immediately. We have made that clear. Secretary Blinken has engaged with the leaders of both Armenia and Azerbaijan to make it clear that we want the Lachin corridor to be opened immediately to address the really dire humanitarian situation in Nagorno-Karabakh.
Also tonight, for the second day in a row, Vice President Kamala Harris spoke to college students about abortion, this time visiting North Carolina A&T University. Students for Life responding by saying the Vice President cannot even name one single abortion limit she supports. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you, Owen. Reaction to Hunter Biden's indictment yesterday came quickly from Republican lawmakers. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer tells EWTN News Nightly the charges are just the tip of the iceberg.
I think we've made the case that the president's son's committed nearly a dozen serious crimes. If I had to rank the crimes in order of seriousness, from 1 being the most serious to 12 being the least, the gun charge would rank a distant 12th.
Congressman Comer and Judiciary Committee Chair Jim Jordan are investigating an alleged play-to-pay scheme involving the Biden family and foreign nationals. This dates from Joe Biden's time as vice president. Congressman Comer has a list of questions for Attorney General Merrick Garland when he testifies before the House Judiciary Committee next week. Here to provide more insight into the indictment and how it impacts election season is founder of the Article 3 Project, Mike Davis. Mike, thanks for joining us on this busy Friday. To start, put this into perspective for us. How much has this case shifted since the original plea deal collapsed in July?
I would say that no one should be fooled by this indictment of Hunter Biden. David Weiss is the Democrat-picked U.S. attorney in Delaware who has protected the Bidens for years. He let the statute of limitations expire on serious tax charges against Hunter Biden. He buried evidence deemed credible by the Pittsburgh U.S. Attorney of Hunter Biden's foreign corruption schemes that could implicate President Biden. And he came up with this sweetheart deal with a backdoor pardon for Hunter Biden. So he cannot be trusted here. What these charges do is just keep Hunter Biden out of Congress's crosshairs between now and November 5th, 2024, because Hunter Biden can plead the Fifth and say he can't testify. The Biden Justice Department can say that there's an ongoing criminal prosecution and ongoing investigations and not provide documents or testimony to Congress. And at the end of the day, Hunter Biden is not going to spend a day in jail. He's going to be pardoned by President Biden after November 5th, 2024. President Biden may pardon himself. David Weiss will come through with another sweetheart deal. This is purely a cover-up to protect President Biden between now and the presidential election.
Okay, well, we'll see if that prediction comes to be true. Mike, that being said, speaking of the presidential election, we're still far out from Election Day 2024, but how much do you think this Hunter Biden news will affect President Biden's chance at re-election?
Well, I don't know if it's going to affect it much at all, because I don't think the Democrats care that President Biden is a compromised president of the United States. I think what's going to take President Biden down is his own record. We see the Bidenomics is not working. We have federal spending out of control. We have interest rates out of control, making home ownership impossible, making car loans impossible, making student loans more expensive. We see out of control inflation. We see out of control crime. America is much worse off under President Biden. And I think that people are going to look past what personal issues they may have with President Trump and say, look, we had peace and prosperity under President Trump, and we have war and chaos and despair under President Biden.
We'll see all that develops between now and Election Day. Well, speaking of President Biden, yesterday, Texas Senator John Cornyn became the latest advocate for an impeachment inquiry of Joe Biden, saying, quote, there's more than enough smoke to warrant a deeper look. Mike, do you think Hunter's indictment is providing this additional steam to the House's inquiry and boosting support for that cause?
There is no question that House Republicans need to move forward with an impeachment investigation. They don't need to impeach right now, but they need to move forward with an impeachment investigation. It is their constitutional duty to ensure that the President of the United States is not compromised and subject to blackmail, like President Biden is right now with Ukraine and Russia, by this foreign corruption, by these foreign bribes. This leads to very dangerous consequences for our country. There is no question we had 4 years of peace and prosperity around the world with President Trump, and Putin invaded Ukraine when Obama put Biden in charge of Ukraine, because probably in part because Putin knows that Biden is compromised by these foreign bribes and other corruption, and Putin smelled Biden's weakness. We had 4 years of peace during Trump, and now Putin is back trying to take the rest of Ukraine. That $10 million foreign bribe from Burisma, allegedly, is going to cost American taxpayers $100 billion and growing, 10,000 times that bribe, and putting us in a very dangerous proxy war with a nuclear superpower in Russia. Just imagine what's going to happen if China invades Taiwan.
Well, a lot of news that we will continue to monitor. Mike Davis, thank you for your perspective.
Thank you.
More than 1 year since Roe v. Wade was overturned, the pro-life movement still has a lot of work ahead when it comes to changing hearts and minds. One pro-life organization converged onto Capitol Hill this week with the mission to educate lawmakers. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales has more.
Good evening. Pro-life organizations I spoke with say that the only way to bring change is through education and legislation. I recently caught up with the folks at Human Coalition, who held a seminar lobbying lawmakers and staff in this post-Roe era.
It's time to be prayerful, but also take a stand publicly for the values that we have for life, and let people know, once again, whose side you're on.
Others stress the need to support services like adoption and pregnancy care centers.
We have to put our money where our mouth is, be able to stand, and our actions. We have to be willing to foster and adopt. We have to be willing to deal with the root causes and to help assist families.
The Hyde Amendment, which blocks the use of taxpayer funds for abortions, has been part of congressional spending bills for 40 years. Pro-Life Caucus Chair Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith tells me Democrats agreed to include it in this year's spending bills as well.
Well, the Hyde Amendment is incredibly important, and I know with the appropriation bills on the Senate side, it's secure. So we just have to, as any other piece of legislation, we have to usher that through there and make sure that those protections stay there.
We have to fight for our vision of the future, a future where getting the birth control that you need is as simple and easy as picking up Advil or Tylenol at the pharmacy.
Democrats are trying to keep the abortion issue front and center, leading to the 2024 presidential election. As for the abortion pill mifepristone, both the DOJ and the pill's manufacturer asked the Supreme Court to overturn a lower court's ruling that would limit access to the drug, setting the stage for a possible high court ruling. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops has issued recommendations for building a culture of life after Roe. They encourage pro-life Americans to make their voices heard through law, policy, politics, and culture, and provide mothers, children, and families in need with care and support. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly, including a call for justice. An international religious freedom group pushes for the release of a bishop in jail in Nicaragua, and Ukrainian bishops wrap up their yearly synod in Rome. The global religious freedom group Alliance Defending Freedom International is pushing for the release of a Catholic bishop currently in prison in Nicaragua. Bishop Rolando Alvarez is serving a 26-year prison sentence. He is accused of being, quote, a traitor to the homeland. And just this week, details emerged that a priest had been arrested simply for praying for Bishop Alvarez. We go now to Christina Helkram, legal counsel for Latin America with ADF International, the group that filed the petition to have Bishop Alvarez released. Christina, thanks for being here. Before we get into this petition, do we know how Bishop Alvarez is doing health-wise? Republican Congressman Chris Smith has asked for proof of life for the bishop, and his numerous requests to visit him in jail have so far been denied.
Thank you for having me. Bishop Alvarez has been prohibited from interacting with the outside world. However, the government did allow one public family visit where we learned that his health is deteriorating and that he's not allowed to live out his faith in prison.
Very concerning, and our prayers continue for the bishop. Now on to the specific charges. As we mentioned, Bishop Alvarez was sentenced to 26 years in prison, and you say the conviction came in a, quote, highly irregular trial. Tell us more about that specifically.
Yes, that is correct. Bishop Alvarez was denied any kind of due process. First, he was arrested without a warrant. Then he was prevented from choosing his own lawyer. When his own lawyer was admitted into the proceedings, she was denied access to crucial information of the case. What we did learn, though, was that parts of his sermons were used as evidence to convict him. Then Bishop Alvarez was absent to his own trial, and the decision has not been notified to him nor to his lawyer.
And Christina, what has been the response to your petition so far?
Yes, so the Inter-American Commission has accepted the petition, but it's too early to know their first impressions and whether they are going to admit it or not yet. But the international community has responded positively since they see a hope to finish religious persecution in Nicaragua.
And Christina, quickly, for our greater understanding, what are some of the other ways that the faithful are being targeted in Nicaragua, and what can be done to stop it?
Yes, so female orders are being expelled from the country. Priests and bishops are being imprisoned arbitrarily. Media is being shut down, Catholic media. Schools are being shut down. The first thing that we have to do is pray for the Catholic Church in Nicaragua. And the second thing, ask to organizations to please denounce those human rights violations.
Absolutely. And can you just clarify, why is the Ortega regime targeting Catholics? What is at the root of this persecution?
We believe is the faithfulness of the church to preach on human dignity and denouncing injustices. Bishops have a religious obligation to proclaim the gospel and to denounce any attack to human dignity and to personal freedoms. This is exactly what Bishop Alvarez has been doing, and this is why he has been imprisoned.
Well, we join our prayers for Bishop Alvarez, and this is a reminder for all of us to continue to speak boldly on the dignity of human life. Christina Helkram, legal counsel for Latin America with ADF International, thank you so much.
Thank you again.
In a developing news story, the Kremlin says it is ready to negotiate ending the 18-month-long war in Ukraine. Russia's foreign minister also accuses Ukraine and its allies of refusing to open any dialogue. The bishops of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church recently finished 10 days of meetings in Rome. One of the leaders expressed his gratitude for a visit from the Holy Father. Pope Francis says he remains close to the people of Ukraine and those who have been displaced by the conflict. EWTN Vatican journalist Matteo Cioffi has more.
This war taught us that we need a new pastoral way to accompany our people. And during the synod, this was the main theme we focused on. Sviatoslav Shevchuk, head of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, met with journalists at the conclusion of the work of the Synod of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, held in Rome September 3rd to the 13th. Archbishop Shevchuk stressed the importance of accompanying the faithful in Ukraine and not forgetting all those people who have left the country.
And we learn that we have to review our capability, our models of pastoral accompaniment. We have to learn more about a trauma as such. So it is why we decided to organize a special course of aggiornamento, of renewal for our priests, religious, and even for the bishops, to be able to understand better what the wounded person experiences.
During the synod, the bishops had the opportunity to meet with Pope Francis, where, in an hour-long conversation, the Holy Father expressed his closeness to the Ukrainian people and church.
Literally, Holy Father told us, I know that probably you have one more pain. You are not sure if Pope is with you. I can assure you, I am with Ukraine. I am with you. So for us was a moment of healing. Now is our duty how to articulate this message going back to our people, how to consolate their hearts, and how to be Catholics in Ukraine today.
Archbishop Shevchuk also spoke about the peace mission of Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, sent by the Holy Father to China over the last few days, and expressed his hope that the Holy See's diplomatic work will lead to a just and authentic peace.
We have to be builders, constructors of the peace. And I think we can build peace through the personal encounters. So we met Holy Father. We had a chance to talk, to speak out in behalf of Ukraine toward the international community. And I think those meetings of His Eminence Zuppi in Ukraine, in Moscow, in Washington, as well in China, will be baby steps toward authentic and secure peace.
In Rome, Matteo Cioffi, EWTN News Nightly.
As we just heard, the Vatican's peace envoy is in China. He is seeking ways to end the war in Ukraine. Cardinal Matteo Zuppi met with China's special representative for Eurasian affairs. The discussion focused on joint efforts to find peace. The cardinal also addressed food insecurity, calling for the Black Sea grain deal to be restored so Ukraine can export grain via the Black Sea. Up next on EWTN News Nightly, the fix is in. An NFL star and a Catholic university team up to renovate church properties. An NFL kicker and the University of Notre Dame are teaming up to tackle a property problem. Catholic Super Bowl champion Harrison Butker and Notre Dame are offering a reward for people who find creative ways to renovate underused church properties. The winning idea will receive an initial $10,000. The project is all part of Notre Dame's Church Properties Initiative. We go now to Austin Wright, who's co-founder and CEO of MD Keller, the company he started with Harrison Butker. We also have David Murphy from the University of Notre Dame's Fitzgerald Institute for Real Estate. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. David, we'll start with you. Why did you begin this project? Can you put into context for us how many church properties are being underused?
Certainly, and thanks for having me on. And here at Notre Dame, we have such a unique vantage point in that on one hand, we're a very trusted Catholic institution, so we can approach religious orders and dioceses and really kind of get, without any walls up, a sense of what the challenges that they're facing. So if you're a Midwestern urban diocese with perhaps hundreds of properties in your portfolio, it's easy for things to maybe fall through the cracks, especially in the contraction. Whereas maybe in Tampa or Texas, you have incredible growth as demographics change. And so Notre Dame is able to kind of go in and listen and then bring that back here to South Bend, where we have the preeminent research Catholic university in the world. So the Fitzgerald Institute, incredible real estate program that encompasses architecture, engineering, finance, and business. And we're able to kind of work through a lot of those problems and get a sense of what's going on. So there is indeed a sense of, as the church contracts, we might have schools or convents, rectories, merged parishes where the property owners don't always have maybe the vision or the skill set or sometimes the time or money to really reimagine what those properties could be as beachheads for building the kingdom of God.
Yeah, that's also important. And Austin, why did you and Harrison Butker want to be involved in this?
Well, to put it mildly, we saw that there was a need in the church. There's a lot of properties that are being sold throughout the diocese around the country, and we see that there's a way to engage diocese organizational structures within the church, whether it be individual parishes, universities, and to reutilize these properties. And meeting David actually a few years ago at the Napa Institute, him and I started talking, and we brought him out and met with Harrison and I, and it kind of spearheaded this. But we want really for people in the church, specifically church leadership, to look at our real estate portfolio as an asset and not a liability. So bringing people together who have a desire to help the church continue to grow and to thrive here in the United States in particular is something that was very much something of interest to us at MD Keller.
Absolutely. It's such an exciting project. So this is a question for either one of you. What's been the response so far? And can you share any of the ideas that you've so far heard?
Well, I
Certainly,
think one of the things that's interesting. Please, go ahead, David.
Oh, yeah, no, we've gotten over 100 responses, and we just did the math before hopping on here. 11 different countries, going from Australia to Peru to Africa and Europe. And the innovation and the ideas that people have is truly inspiring, ranging from how can we repurpose an old convent into housing for Catholic school teachers in a very high rent neighborhood, turning old school buildings into centers for evangelization that benefit a specific community. Coffee shops, bookstores, you name it. People have vision. They have ideas of how to bring the hope and the joy of the faith in a new way and reimagine that property and say, okay, this school closed. That's really sad. But instead of just kind of having it rot and sit empty and fallow, they're combining kind of their vision and their innovation with kind of a zeal that's so exciting to see. And so the response has been much larger than we expected. And so the committee, Austin and I, have a lot of work to do to dig through all these applications that are all very great and range in scope and scale and geographies across the world.
And Austin, what comes next? When will the $10,000 be awarded? And is this something you think we might see from more of faith-based groups?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to coincide with the conference in October at Notre Dame. They've been great partners. David and his entire group there at the RFI have been phenomenal. But we're hoping, obviously, $10,000 is a drop in the bucket in the big scheme of things. But we're hoping this encourages people to think outside the box and really bring in that church/business partnership and to be able to work together. And we hope that this really does ignite people in an exciting way to look at how we can utilize the gifts that people in previous generations of Catholics have put their hard-earned money towards, and we can continue to thrive in that way. And whether it's different ventures, there's plenty of examples that I met or that I heard of when we were in Notre Dame last year, that they're doing already around the country. And we're just hoping this really engages that. And we hope it does become an annual thing and something that we can continue to talk about and just continue to bring these various people together in different sectors. And for us, for Harris and I at MD Keller, we wanted to really help in any way we can to bring the right people together to bring this mission to fruition.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you both for your creativity for the sake of our church. Austin Wright and David Murphy, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And we thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Catherine Hadro. Good night and God bless.